Good afternoon, everyone. Pablo, t'es
Là.
juste là.
OK.
Attention. Parfait. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour. What a beautiful day here in Prince Edward Island, I have to say. As my last event before heading back home, I'm really glad to be making an announcement about helping people get to and from the island even easier. We've got a lot of ministers here with us today and a lot of caucus members. Our entire P.E.I caucus is here with Sean Casey, Bobby Morrissey, Heath MacDonald, and of course Minister MacAulay, along with Minister Rodriguez, Minister Fraser, and Minister Freeland. It's a testament to what having a new modern ferry boat will mean for P.E.I and Nova Scotia. Merci tout le monde d'être des nôtres et d'avoir contribué à rendre ce moment possible. The Wood Islands Caribou Ferry Service connects these two provinces, connects families, connects tourists, connects workers, and connects businesses. Today's announcement owes a huge debt of gratitude to members of our team from P.E.I, to Sean Fraser, and certainly to Lawrence MacAulay, who's worked incredibly hard to make this possible. Today we're announcing that we will be purchasing a new vessel for this ferry line so that we can ensure people and businesses have reliable two-way ferry service. For the last year, the MV Confederation has been there to help continue to deliver essential services after the fire on the MV Holiday Island, but we know it's high time a new ferry came online. This new vessel, the MV Fanafjord, will help Northumberland ferries continue to safely and efficiently serve the economies and communities here on the East Coast. Les services de traversiers fiables et modernisés sont une bouée de sauvetage essentielle, en particulier pour les communautés de l'Est de l'île du Prince-Édouard et de Pictou en Nouvelle-Écosse, et c'est ce que nous aidons à réaliser aujourd'hui. I have to go very shortly, but I want to reiterate my thanks to everyone who made today's announcement happen. Merci beaucoup, and it is now with great pleasure that I pass it over to the man who made it happen, Lawrence MacAulay.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and it is certainly a wonderful day. I have to say it was so wonderful to have you here and to have the entire cabinet here on Prince Edward Island. It's such an honor indeed. We live on the greatest place on the earth, and I wanted the cabinet to see that we lived on the greatest place on the earth. And I think they did realize that. We fed them well, and I think we had great meetings. One issue that my colleagues around the cabinet table have been paying close attention to is the ferry situation here on Prince Edward Island. Last year, the MV Holiday Island burnt, and in fact, the Prime Minister was here when that happened. I thought that was kind of fortunate, really. To have the Prime Minister to fully understand how big a blow it is, it's helpful. And then we had trouble with the MV Confederation. My whole career, I've always said how vital the two-vessel service was to Wood Islands Caribou. And for part of this spring, we had no vessel for a couple of weeks. That is devastating to the tourism industry and to all of the trucking industry across Prince Edward Island. And really, tourists come onto Prince Edward Island by vessel and go out by the link. It's just a different way of doing things, and it's so important, and it's something the tourism industry really wants to have. And I have to say, when the MV Confederation broke down, I think it was one of the most devastating times in my career. But it also showed how vitally important it was that we have two vessels. And with this situation today, we now own a vessel, and we will be assuring safe, reliable two-vessel service to Wood Islands Caribou Ferry Service, along with building a new vessel on the Davie Shipyard, which is also so important. Purchasing this vessel is a clear indication that our government is listening to the real concerns of rural areas across this country. We heard you when we took action. We took action to ensure the long-term stability and reliability of the ferry service. I want to thank all my colleagues here today who helped make this happen. You cannot do very much alone in my business, and with a lot of help you can make things happen, and this is the result of it today. I also want to thank Northumberland Ferries for the work they did in analysing the problem and being able to find a vessel that suited the ferry service. I want to thank the island, many businesses on Prince Edward Island I've spoken to over the last couple of months that went through a lot of difficulty. And I want to thank Ernie Hudson, the Minister of Transport for the provincial government in Prince Edward Island, for his consideration during this difficult time. He also understood how important this service was to Prince Edward Island. Purchasing this vessel with the goal to have one, making sure we have one on the water next spring, provides stability, efficient and reliable service between Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Thank you very much, and it's my privilege to introduce to you Pablo Rodriguez, the Minister of Transport.
Pablo.
Thank you, sir. Hey everyone, salut tout le monde. C'est vraiment un honneur d'être ici avec le Premier ministre, avec les collègues, nos députés de l'île pour cette magnifique annonce qui est à la fois pour les habitants de l'île du Prince-Édouard, mais je dirais pour tout le Canada Atlantique. A couple of weeks ago, I was with the Prime Minister making an announcement on a train. Later on, I was in Ottawa last week for an announcement at the airport, and now I'm here for the great news for the people of P.E.I and the people across the Atlantic sector. So I feel a bit like in the movie, like plane, trains, and ferries. So I need an announcement about cars. So as my good friend and colleague, Minister MacAulay, and the Prime Minister just said, our government intends to buy the MV Fania 4, and this is fantastic news for the people and businesses that live, that work here, and if anyone knows how crucial ferry services are, it's your community. It's the communities here in P.E.I and across Eastern Canada, and the Wood Island Caribou route keeps the communities connected, your communities connected, and the two-vessel service along this route is absolutely crucial for the local economy, for the businesses that run here. Et le service de deux navires le long de ces routes est absolument crucial pour l'économie. On parle de jobs, de très bonnes jobs pour à peu près 200 personnes, de 39 millions de dollars dans l'économie locale à chaque année. So this is very important. Among other things, it's 200 very good jobs, nearly $39 million every year, year after year for the regional economy. And this is what I call an essential services, and we're here delivering once again for the people. And since the MV Holiday Island was removed from service, it's been tough on you guys. We know it. It's been tough on you. It's been tough on the communities. It's been tough for the people who rely on the ferry services between Prince Edward and Nova Scotia, and we know that. The Prime Minister, the team, the MPs are here, and they've been talking about this a lot, all the time, I would say, and they know this. Et notre gouvernement sait tout ça, et on sait que c'est difficile pour vous, pour la communauté, qui compte sur des services de traversier dans la région. And trust me, we do know very well what this ferry means, the lifeline it is for your communities, for your business sector. That's why we made that commitment in the budget in 2019. You guys will probably remember to replace two of these important vessels, the MV Holiday Island and the MV Madeleine. So we're working with Davy on this. On travaille avec le chantier Davy pour construire ces nouveaux navires, faire en sorte qu'ils soient en service le plus rapidement possible. And today's announcement, the fact that we're buying the MV Fania Fjord, I'm not too good with this, but it's an interim solution, very important solution to ensure that the two vessels ferry service continues on the Wood Island Caribou route until then. So this, as said, it will give communities and businesses certainty that they can continue to rely on the two-vessel service. And you guys spoke a lot about the two-services, right? You wanted this? Well, we're delivering this. Why? Because it's important for the community. And so if you're a family hoping to visit a loved one or a small business that depends on this, for your business, well, today's announcement is another step we're taking to support you and this beautiful region, I have to say, an amazing region. And as I mentioned before, and we have plans to build 2 new ferries with the Chantier de Vie, and these vessels will be quite something. They will be they will incorporate cutting-edge technology, which will support sustainable transportation solutions that are, of course, much more efficient and environmentally friendly. And by supporting the continued ferry service in Atlantic Canada, we're taking action to protect the well-being of the communities and businesses right here. Alors, on maintient vraiment un service essentiel pour les communautés, pour les entreprises. Et ça s'appelle livrer pour les Canadiens. This is concrete. This is delivering for Canadians. So, guys, thank you for having us here, by the way. It was amazing 3 days. And now I'll turn to my colleague, Sean Fraser.
Look, thank you everybody for being here. This is a really important announcement, not just for PEI, but for the communities that I represent in my capacity as the local member of parliament for the other side of the strait. I grew up in Pictou County, and I can tell you the importance of the ferry link between our provinces cannot be overstated. When I'm dealing with a situation where we see the MV Holiday Island go ablaze last summer, putting at risk the life of the Northumberland Ferry Services staff, I couldn't believe what we were seeing. In the immediate aftermath of the emergency, I should say, the ferry operator did an extraordinary job to protect the lives and well-being of the passengers and those who were working aboard the vessel. But in the aftermath of that emergency situation, I started getting calls from the business community in Nova Scotia because they are making decisions now about what the anticipated service is going to look like next year. When we saw there were challenges with the MV Confederation earlier this summer, people started to ask themselves, do we need to start pivot and serving different communities if we're going to still be able to operate our businesses? With today's announcement, what we're doing more than just providing a pathway to connect Nova Scotia and PEI is giving certainty to the business community who does business on both sides of the strait that they're going to have 2 vessels that they can rely on next year. In addition, I got to say, it's been a tradition my entire life for people from the communities that I came from to come visit the island over the summer. People, generally speaking, in my part of Nova Scotia prefer to take the ferry because they know they're supporting local jobs when they do it. To be able to choose the sustainable option to travel more efficiently between provinces and take the kids to shining waters, whatever it may be, this is something that speaks to a culture that's developed over many decades. But this is not just an economic issue for PEI. There's tourism operators on the Pictou County side of this route that depend heavily on the folks who are either coming from the island or who have spent time on the island that want to visit Nova Scotia on the back end of the trip to Atlantic Canada. For what it's worth, we call it the Caribou Wood Islands Ferry on my side of the strait, not the other way around. But what we hear from the tourism operators there is that this is the 3rd most common way people come to Nova Scotia. If we don't continue to provide reliable 2-vessel service, tourism operators are going to start asking themselves, can they continue to depend on the traffic that's going to allow them to provide for their families? This is a really big deal, and I want to give a huge credit to Lawrence MacAulay, who's been a great mentor for me on how to navigate the political dynamics around securing support for the ferry, because he's been doing it since I was 4 years old, Lawrence. But in all honesty, I can't imagine a better mentor for me than Lawrence MacAulay on how to navigate this particular issue. He's been an absolute champion for the ferry service, and I hope to continue the work alongside him over the next couple of years as we take delivery of 2 vessels that are going to continue to provide reliable service in the years ahead. Thank you so much.
I'll give you a hug. Good to see you.
Travel safe. Take care, bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Oh, I guess I can stay here. I can stay here. You got your back. I know you did.
Ministers will now take your questions. We have about 15 minutes, so please line up at the mic right there.
Mackenzie Grover, Global News. My question's for Minister Freeland. Just turning to the wildfires in the Northwest Territories, there have been a number of people who've had to travel a long distance to get out of the evacuation zone, and the Northwest Territories government has indicated that they're not going to be paying any kind of reimbursements for people who've traveled away. Would the federal government be willing to step in to make those people whole who had to escape the wildfires?
Well, Thank you for the question. And I just want to start by telling everyone a little story about this ferry and about Minister MacAulay and the entire P.E.I caucus. The reason that I am standing here right now to be part of this announcement is because as part of getting to this decision, Lawrence started talking to me about it in the spring. And as I hope people know, fiscal responsibility is an important principle for our government. And there are a lot of big programs out there that we have in place to deliver for Canadians. Things like childcare, things like dental care, things like our $200 billion investment in healthcare we made at the beginning of this year. And so I have been saying to my ministerial colleagues, you know, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we have delivered a lot for Canadians, and we have to be really thoughtful about any future decisions. So I think my colleagues understand that and support that. And so Lawrence started talking to me about the ferry in the spring. He started talking to me. I couldn't, if I ever saw Lawrence, I knew he would talk to me about the ferry. And then it's the summertime, and we were not in Ottawa anymore, so he couldn't, like, you know, back me into a corner and talk to me about it. And I said, well, we could just talk on the phone. And he said, no, we can't just talk on the phone. This is a true story. That's why he's laughing. And he said, no, I'm going to come to Toronto to see you. Because he knows in person he makes an even stronger case. So he came to Toronto to see me. We talked for about an hour and a half. Then I invited him over to my house, and I cooked him a nice supper, right? A good roast chicken. It was good. He seemed to like it. And, you know, really, I just want people here on P.E.I to understand that when you have a representative who is so committed to the people of the island and is so trusted by colleagues, it really makes a difference. And I really felt, I think Sean felt, I think Pablo felt, like if this was so important for Lawrence and the P.E.I caucus, we had to do it. Now, to the Northwest Territories. I met some of those people traveling south from the Northwest Territories, actually just last Friday in Peace River. People from Yellowknife, people from Fort Smith, people from Hay River. Incredibly resilient people, you know, families with kids, maybe a dog. They'd been driving for 9 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours. And I was just so impressed by the spirit of all the people I met there in Peace River. Really glad to be safe. And glad for the support they were getting from the whole country. I spoke over the weekend with Premier Cochrane, and what I said to her is, as people in Atlantic Canada know, when there is a disaster, you can count on the federal government to be there to support Canadians from coast to coast to coast. Now, there are disaster relief programs in place that support expenditures for a province and territory and provide support for the people who are evacuated. So we have our standard way of doing this, and unfortunately with climate change it's becoming more that having to do it quite a bit. But what I said to the Premier, I'll repeat now, and I know this is the view of the Prime Minister, we're very happy to work with the government, with the leadership of the Northwest Territories on what might be some extraordinary expenses. The important thing is for people to be safe today, and then the important thing is for people to be able to rebuild their lives. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Lisa Mayer, CBC News. I have a couple of quick questions for Minister Freeland as well. I'm wondering what your reaction is to the leak about your speeding ticket, and do you have concerns about the fact that that was leaked publicly?
So look, I did get a speeding ticket driving between Grand Prairie and Peace River. I was driving too fast, and I won't do it again.
Secondly, Minister Freeland, I'm hoping to get a reaction from you to the news out of Russia about Prigozhin and the fact that he was on the passenger list of a plane that went down this afternoon.
Again, we've been here in the cabinet retreat, and I haven't been specifically briefed by Canadian officials on that. But maybe I'll take this opportunity to say, and it's something that we discussed in our cabinet retreat, Russia's invasion of Ukraine is a threat not just to the brave people of Ukraine, it's a threat to the whole world. It's had an impact on the Canadian economy, and it does grave harm to the rules-based international order that we rely on for our own security. So we reiterated at our retreat how strongly we continue to stand with Ukraine. There are many leaders in Russia who are rightly sanctioned by Canada. And, you know, that is the right decision by our country. And we're going to continue to support Ukraine and to appropriately sanction and punish the Russian leadership, including mercenary leaders, who are committing crimes every single day. Thank you. Concernant l'Ukraine, alors, on a discuté l'Ukraine et l'invasion de l'Ukraine par la Russie pendant notre retraite du cabinet. On a discuté le fait que, oui, c'est principalement l'Ukraine qui souffre et c'est l'Ukraine qui se bat contre la Russie avec beaucoup de succès. Mais c'est aussi une attaque contre toutes les démocraties du monde. C'est une attaque contre le Canada. On a discuté pendant le retrait les effets économiques qu'on a aujourd'hui au Canada. Et moi et nos collègues, commençant avec le Premier ministre, pendant la retraite du cabinet, nous avons souligné que le Canada était là, est là et sera là pour l'Ukraine, et le Canada continuera de sanctionner, de punir les leaders russes qui commettent les crimes chaque jour en Ukraine. Merci.
I'm hoping this can be addressed by the Finance Minister, but Stu Neatby from the Saltwire Network. Premier Dennis King has said that he was verbally offered an exemption to the DFAA program last year to allow expenses by Maritime Electric, the utility here related to the Fiona storm, to be covered. He's now being told, apparently, that that is not true. Given that the theme of this retreat seems to have been about affordability, doesn't the fact that ratepayers might be taking on the expenses of a major climate event run counter to that theme?
I'm going to say one general thing, and then we did talk about Maritime Electric with the excellent members of the P.E.I caucus. So I'm going to turn to Sean Casey in a minute. He is our resident expert on the specific issue. But what I do want to say this. I really believe, you know, having just a couple of days ago, being up in northern Alberta in the Peace Country, having met people fleeing forest fires, it just brought home to me in that really personal way how devastating the impact of climate change is. It's not a theory anymore. It's something that so many people are feeling across the country. And earlier this summer, I was in Nova Scotia and saw the impacts of devastating climate events there. So, and I think all Canadians recognize that climate change is real, that it's having an impact on us, and we need to act. And I think as a country, we can take pride in the fact that we are acting. We're taking real action that is making a difference. Our emissions are starting to go down even as our economy grows. That's exactly what needs to happen. At the same time, I do want to assure you and the people of P.E.I. that we recognize that even as we act on climate change, we need to be sure there is we need to be aware of the cost of living challenges for Canadians, and that very much includes the price people pay for their electricity. That's why in the budget in the spring, we did something a federal government has never done before, which is we put in place very, very significant electricity tax credits that public utilities can apply for, and so can private ones. And the reason we did that was, yes, to help Canada accomplish the green transition more quickly, but also crucially, and this is there in black and white in the budget, to ensure that even as we were moving towards clean energy, we were going to have enough electricity for the green transition, and that regular Canadians, when they paid their electricity prices, were not feeling any pain. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sean, who was briefing us all on this.
Thank you very much, Minister. Stu, with respect to the preamble to your question, the conversation between the Premier and the Prime Minister in Stanley Bridge shortly after Hurricane Fiona was that the federal government would be there to help the people of Prince Edward Island. There was not a specific reference to the DFAA, but there was a commitment on behalf of the Government of Canada to help islanders, a commitment on which we've delivered. More than $1 billion has been committed to the region for Hurricane Fiona relief, not including the amount that will be forthcoming under the DFAA. The letter from the Premier to the Prime Minister specifically asked for funds under the DFAA. The ask did not comply with the criteria of that program. That's a program that's been in effect since the 1970s. It's a program that the government of Prince Edward Island has availed itself of previously. It knows the program well, including Hurricane Fiona. That does not foreclose conversations under other programs or with other possibilities to deal with this. But one of the reasons that the request did not comply with DFAA is because Maritime Electric is not a small business. It's a for-profit, publicly traded business, and that simply doesn't qualify. So there will be further discussions to see what further measures can be taken, but the DFAA is not an option for this particular claim.
Hi, Jessica Doria-Brown with CBC. I have two ferry-related questions. Number one, I guess, perhaps to the Minister of Transport. Where are we at in the procurement process of this new ferry, and what's the cost at this point?
Well, after identifying the ferry that we needed, it's been visited and inspected, and we know exactly which one we want. So the one we mentioned today. Now there's 15 days for the others to show up if they want to offer something. But we know that this is the one that's there for us that we want, and we're actually starting discussion negotiations with them. So as soon as the price is known, we'll let you know.
And so in 15 days, we'll know whether or not you've secured this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Shortly
what?
after that.
No other one.
The what?
We searched the world.
Yeah,
for a vessel,
exactly.
and that was the one.
That's the one we want.
And what if you're outbid on this ferry?
We've looked around everywhere, but we have to follow the process, which they give 15 days if anyone wants to show up around the world with this, but we already know that this is the one we're going to get.
Okay. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So somebody still could have put in a higher
within
bid
15
for this?
days.
Okay. And as for the new ferry that's due in 2028, where are we at in that process? It seems like it's been in the design phase for a really long time.
No, the Davids assures us that they're going to be delivering the ferries top-notch in terms of technology, exactly what we need, and we're very happy to have those ferries.
And so just to confirm, I mean, we have 15 days to know for sure about this ferry, but we can...
It will be this ferry.
There will be
Unless you find someone hitting somewhere in an island or something, but it will be this one.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess maybe Lawrence or whoever wants to answer. Do you guys still maintain confidence in Northumberland Ferries Limited to operate this service?
Well,
Go for it, Lawrence.
the fact is, of course, they have a contract to 2028, and long as they fulfill the contract, they will be the service provider. And without that, there would be take legal action to make a change. Things can happen, but that's the state of the polls at the moment.
And I guess if the Davie shipyard, if there's further delays in building the boat that they're working to design, what's the plan then to assure that we have a two-boat service?
We just assured that you'd have a two-boat service. Today here on this stage, we have purchased a vessel from Norway, and it will be here in the spring, next spring, for the opening of the ferry service between Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia.
I suppose just knowing the Confederation often has technical difficulties and is out of service, is there any plan to make sure that even when that happens, there's going to be a second boat and there's 2 boats in operation?
Well, what we will have is 2 boats. We won't have a fleet, but we're going to have 2 boats. And I think that we always had that, and we want to make sure that we provide the appropriate service. We were able to convince, my colleagues and I were able to convince the government that they would allocate the funds to do this, and we will have a 2-boat service between Wood Islands and Caribou, Prince Edward Island. Vitally important, as has been indicated on this stage, for tourism and the transportation industry in Prince Edward Island and Pictou County in Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Dernière question, last question.
Bonjour, Julien Lecacheur, Radio-Canada. Ma question pour vous, Monsieur le ministre des Transports, en français, s'il vous plaît. Pouvez-vous me parler de combien coûte ce bateau et quand sera-t-il ici à l'île du Prince-Édouard?
Il va être ici au mois de mai. On a identifié le bateau, on l'a visité, on l'a inspecté, c'est exactement ce qu'on a besoin. Maintenant, les règles font en sorte qu'on doit donner 15 jours à quelqu'un d'autre pour soumettre une proposition. On le sait, on a déjà fait le tour du monde, nos experts y ont été, il n'y en a pas d'autres, mais il faut y aller selon les règles. Et dès que le 15 jours est passé, à ce moment-là, on termine les négociations sur le prix comme tel, mais le bateau est ici au mois de mai.
2024.
Oui.
Parlez-nous du deuxième bateau, Monsieur Rodriguez, je peux me permettre, s'il vous plaît. Le deuxième bateau, on en est où pour la construction et quand arrivera-t-il le neuf, celui-ci à l'île du Prince-Édouard?
Le neuf en 2028, selon le contrat qui est stipulé avec la Davy. Tout semble être en place pour aller de l'avant. C'est un bateau hautement technologique qui vient non seulement répondre aux besoins qu'on a ici, mais également offrir une meilleure performance au niveau environnemental, ce qui est extrêmement important pour les habitants de l'île, mais aussi, je dirais, pour tout le monde.
Thank you, merci.